What's up, guys? Today we have Nick Fuentes debating a bunch of black feminists on Fresh&Fit about race differences and immigration.
Your point, because I think it's an important distinction. You know, you said that God would want to see us as unequal in terms of IQ or worth, but that is the distinction, because we can say that people are unequal qualitatively without saying that they're unequal before God, which is my position. Because, and we talked about this on the earlier show, when you look at individuals, no two individuals are equal. You know, if I stand next to Myron, he's taller than me.
Yeah.
You know, and if I stand next to somebody else, we're going to be unequal. And I think groups are unequal too. I think that inequality is just a state of nature. I don't think you find equality in nature. The important thing is, though, and it's like you said, we have to love each other. The equality we bring to the table is that everyone has a soul. Everybody is equal before God. And I agree with you. People should be treated with care and kindness and that sort of thing. But that being said, and this is why it's important to be specific. When I look at other people, I think it's important to treat them with dignity, respect, love, that sort of thing.
I agree.
At the same time, that's totally different from saying, like, the government is racist or the government shouldn't be racist or things like this. Here's what I mean. The government has to take into account that people are different.
Yeah.
You know, so for example, like when we have this mass immigration into the United States, the people that are coming here are different from the people that are here. You know, they have a different ancestry, different culture, different background. They speak a different language. To look at those people and say, well, you know, we got to treat these people exactly the same in the spirit of equality. Well, they're not equal. They're not the same.
But why
I don't know
not?
if
They
I
are.
ever
Why
necessarily
not,
made
though?
the argument of equality. I don't know if I said that because I have my own views about equality. I think that equity is much more efficient for society, for even relationships and families. But I think what I'm getting tripped up with and the sticking point that I'm having with your arguments is when you're saying like one specific race is inherently lower intelligence, that opens the door for
On average,
so
though.
many.
On
that-
average.
and
Well,
you
but they're
believe
stratified.
but you believe it's like a genetic component that opens the door for so many people who maybe are not a part of that racial group to disrespect the racial group that you believe is genetically lower intelligence.
It's a sensitive subject.
And I really do believe in the goodness of you as a person, just the way that you carry yourself and the way that you speak. But when I'm assuming you're probably a guy that is like very polarizing and has millions of followers and viewers. There's probably at least a handful of people, or like a percentage worth of a handful of people who take what you are saying and use it in a very, very, very ugly way.
Yeah, you're right about that. And, you know, I'm bombastic about it. But in truth, it's not just about putting black people down. And I talk about that a lot because I don't think that black people should be put down. In fact, I think that a lot of their grievances are legitimate. The problem is, though, what you find is it gets mixed up with rhetoric like what you said, where you said God made white people to laugh as a joke. Like, and I'm not trying to put you down for saying that, but I mean, all I'm trying to say is the same could be said really about any kind of statement. Like, we can listen to grievances, historical or otherwise, that people have. By the same token, people could take an historical grievance and say, well, we have a right to be racist against white people because it's a bad joke that God made them. As far as the IQ goes, though, it's stratified. Asians have the highest, then whites, Hispanics, blacks in terms of average. The only reason I say that is if we want to help everybody, we have to kind of meet them where they are.
Yeah.
And it's like, if that's the problem, then throwing more money at it's not going to fix it.
Exactly. And I agree with that.
Okay, so since we're on, real quick.
I want to hear from Glow, though.
What are your thoughts on it? Because you didn't talk at all on your thoughts as well. So these two right here.
On what?
For example, he just said on the scale, black people are lower IQ. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I just like don't agree with a lot of what he's saying. He said some stuff earlier about how apparently everybody's brains are different, which I don't know how that's like scientifically possible that a black person's brain is different than a white person's. I don't know.
I think he was hypothetically speaking.
No, he was serious.
No, he's like
Nick,
he's
you wanna
trying to say
explain
like
that?
that was
Yeah,
like
a little
a
bit.
fact.
He's serious.
Well, I mean that, you know, there's this idea we talk about race and we say, like, skin color doesn't matter. I don't think that race is just skin color. I think that what we call it is human biodiversity, meaning there's biological diversity within the human population. So, you know, white and black and Hispanic and Asian people are distinct categories of people.
Minority is what you guys
people.
call it.
Because minority is, I mean, in America, whites are going to be in the minority in a decade. You know,
Not if you have anything to say about it.
you're right. You're right about that.
I'm trying to make light. This is an intense conversation. I'm
It's
trying
cool.
to bring light.
Well, hold on. So, did that answer your question? No, she wanted to know where how the brains are different based on race. That's
So
what she
here's
was
the
trying to
thing.
Yo, guys, even if you don't want to, we must have kids. You don't want the country to become the United States of Africa or United States of Pakistan. And same thing in Europe. We must have kids.
It's just like trying to see where you got all this information, because like that just doesn't make sense.
Our nature is warm. We are good people. Like,
Well, ladies, do you know what he? Do you
He's
guys
not arguing
know what he
good.
specifically said?
Yeah.
Do you remember what he specifically said?
Yeah,
No,
he
I
said
don't.
that like black people, white people, Asians, whatever, they
IQ
all got different
levels.
brains. How
Whatever,
do we have
nigga.
different
Yes.
brains?
No. What he said is that, well, I mean, that's a component of it, but what the real bottom line is that he's saying that each race has different IQ level averages.
Right, but they don't have a problem. They don't have a problem with that, Myron. They don't have a problem with
That's
that. They have
fine.
a problem with the fact that he thinks that black people's brains are different than a white person's brain.
They are.
understand the hierarchy, and I understand that too. I understand how
numbers.
Like
IQ.
genetically
Stats.
different.
The fact that we are physically very different, that should tell you something, okay? It's not a coincidence. If we have different skin color, different bone structure, different muscle mass, different body shapes. I mean, if you compare a Chinese lady to a black guy, come on, bro. You will say it's the same?
Here and say, "Oh, I know a black brain is different than a white brain."
how?
I mean, one's darker.
Because y'all experimented on us.
Okay, there it is.
Because y'all
It's not
experimented
darker.
on
We all
us.
got
Here's
the
what I
same
mean by
type of
that.
Yeah, let him
brain,
please let him
So-
explain. Go ahead, Nick, because I don't want to. I think I know what you mean, but I don't
Yeah.
want to put words in your mouth. Go ahead.
So we have different skin colors. That's a genetic difference.
Okay.
And you know, black people look different than white people. Not even just their skin color. Like if a black person turned white all of a sudden, like you could
Like
still
my lips will go away.
Vitiligo.
Like, I
Right,
have
exactly.
lips.
I mean, I could distinguish that you have. I mean, you look black. Like your face
Yeah.
looks black. My face
I
looks
look
white.
like royalty, baby. Let's go.
Sure. And I don't. You know, it's so sensitive.
Let's let him finish his point so that she can understand where he's
Okay,
coming
okay,
with the
sorry.
brain thing.
So the point is like people say race is just we're all the same, but just in different colors. And I'm saying that we're different in other ways too. We're genetically different in other ways. Our bone structure is different. Our faces are different. Our skin color is different. And then the point is to say, when we talk about IQ, people say, well, how could black people or white people or Asian people have a different average IQ? Well, their brains are probably genetically different, just like their skin color, just like their bones, just like other things. And so it's to say it would be ridiculous to suggest that every person in the world would have the same average IQ. Why would that make sense?
Right,
We're
but
not
this
talking
is
about
also
IQ. We're talking
but
about
this is
like
this is all
the
his
brain.
this is his opinion though,
I
because
understand.
keyword was probably.
Yeah.
There was no factual in that.
That's what I'm saying.
Bones Did that answer the question or no?
No, because he's like
Our
going
bones are
around the
different?
question.
How?
He's
I'm really
saying
not.
IQ.
When
I'm
you
not
see a
talking about
skeleton,
IQ.
it's
I'm
just
talking about the physical brain
Well,
that we all have and we're born with.
He did mention that we're all differently made. So
Mhm.
for
I
example, he's
understand
just
that,
saying
but
that
like that doesn't mean our brains are different. Like IQ wise, that's like shit you learn
Look, you're literally proving the IQ point, okay?
throughout life. Like you know
I
what I mean?
actually,
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
I-
this
So
is-
you're just like
this is
born with a low
disagreement here,
IQ?
right?
Is that what you're saying?
Where-
No.
He told you the answer, but I guess you're not like taking it for what it is. But
Okay.
real quick, thoughts on this real quick. You didn't say anything either.
I'm smart, so.
Hold on. So you get it, right? So you get it? Okay, cool.
Can I
I
add
think
to this though?
okay. Let me distill what he was saying.
Okay.
I think what he said is very simple. He said, based on race, people have different features, different looks, different skin tones, hell, even different muscle fibers. African Americans, we know, have more fast twitch muscle fibers, which is why it's easier for them to build muscle mass than other races, etc. Right? Height levels, whatever. So what he's saying is that on the physiology side, we're all different,
Yeah.
and a lot of the times races have a lot of similarities. Then he went on to say, well, we also have different IQs. Since we have different IQs, it would make sense, and the logical conclusion would be our brains are different as well.
Right.
Because if we're different
I understand
physically,
that.
Because
right,
we learn
and
differently.
a component of your brain is obviously your IQ,
Yeah.
then we probably have different brains as well. Because on average, right, the races have different IQs. We know Asians are at the top, whites are in the middle, and then blacks are low on the lower end typically. But he's saying if our IQs are lower, that by definition means that our brains are different as well. So that's, I think, the logical conclusion he came to.
Right,
And
but
to
again,
Nick's
that's just
point-
not factual. He said it with so much conviction, and that's the problem with people like him. They say things that are opinionated, that isn't necessarily factual, and say it with so much conviction that logically it follows, but there's no science that backs that up.
People like me.
Yeah.
What is that
With
supposed to
opinions
be?
like you.
White people?
Asians are trained differently. They're trained to.
Nick, did you have anything to respond? Did that make sense when I distilled that?
Yeah, no, that's exactly
right.
right.
You understand what I mean now?
Sense, like, that you broke
If the
it down like
physiology
that.
is the same,
No,
that
but
means, and IQs are different, that means, oh, well, the brains are probably different too. That's what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I agree with
But
what
to
you just
Nick's
said
point,
just
he
now.
did also say
Okay.
that before God, we are equal,
Yes.
Yeah.
and which that is fact.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think it's very important for people to understand, especially, and I'm not saying this in a classist way. I understand education is privilege, but if you don't have the education of knowing how to interpret research correctly, you're going to be very hindered with the way that you think about life. We have to understand that correlation does not always equal causation. So it's humans like to think very linearly. Oh, racial groups have different stratifications of standardized test scores, for example, which means this is wrong, but races must inherently genetically be different in intelligence. That is an incorrect statement. Correlation does not equal causation. The reasons are oftentimes multifaceted: opportunity, resources, childhood, family life, home life, so on and so forth. I have never heard any type of research that shows there's a genetic difference between the races and their intelligence.
What?
I wouldn't even know how to physically measure, like is it the neuronal connections? Is it the glucose utilization in the brain that is making the IQ higher? I don't know what that would be. I've never read those studies.
Yeah, we don't even got to go there because there's no way that we can even prove that as a fact sitting at this table. That's like
Period.
a losing argument.
Dude, come on, bro. Just look at Africa, okay? Are we pretending there's no difference between Europe and Africa? It's because of opportunity. Like, come on, man. The average IQ in Africa is 70, and many countries in Africa have 60, okay? This is not an opinion. That is a fact.
We
Yeah,
said we
keep
can't even
going.
measure
Yeah,
it.
no, because
No, we can't because you're
Yeah,
not a scientist, Bill
we
Nye.
can't, because look,
The science guy.
the literature on this is not disputed at all. I mean, if you look at,
So there's literature on this.
there is.
Okay.
Can you state the
Because they're
journal
trying to
by
say that
chance?
there's no
I
literature.
have it on my phone. I
I
don't have it
literally
off
just
the top
said
of my
that
head,
it's
but
not fact.
I feel
But
like it's
it's-
scientifically
Cite your
proven.
like it's not.
Ladies, please let us speak.
It's not. I mean, you can do your own research on this, but it's not a controversial thing at all that blacks, whites, Asians, Hispanics stratify along those lines in IQ tests.
That's not
standardized tests,
That's not
SAT.
what we're debating right now.
Well, you did. You said
No,
you
it's
have no
not.
science to back up your
No,
claim.
I'm
But
saying you don't have
the
any
literature's
science to back up the
completely-
brain aspect of it, baby. I'm
Oh,
not.
you're
I
missing the
agree.
point.
I agree with what you said. I agree with I know
Okay.
Asians, black. I understand how that falls. I promise I do.
Okay.
But there is
Oh.
no facts behind my brain being different because I'm black and yours is different because you're white.
But
That's all I'm saying.
okay.
Period.
Well, you're missing the point. The point was to say that IQ as a function of brain. That was the point. So you're sort of missing the point.
Can we
move
be
on?
saying the fact that there's different tiers of IQs based on race must mean that the brains are different based on
I
race
get
as well?
that.
That's an
It sounds like
incorrect
y'all coming
Yeah,
up
but
with
that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
That's
so
something that you cannot prove.
Follow up
Like
there.
I understand. I
All
completely
right, so
understand.
y'all don't agree with that conclusion.
These are
Okay,
all
okay.
opinions.
All right, so we can agree to disagree on this topic.
Yes.
course.
All right.
Yes.
Did anyone else have anything before?
No.
Oh, I want to share
No.
something. Okay,
Alright.
this is inspirational. Okay, you guys, K through 12, I was like a completely deficient student, C's, B's, like not very good at all, didn't believe in myself.
Yeah.
Got into college, did really, really, really well, and now I attend a top 50 medical school. So this is why I'm like very passionate about not believing that it's just completely nature, because I do believe, that it's not completely nature and that it can also be nurture, because my environment changed when I got into college and now I'm
And-
falling out. in
And I'll
school.
piggyback off that because since I'm on a quest to go to law school,
Hey.
something about the LSAT is
Mhm.
that the way it's written, it's
Yeah.
literally written.
Racist.
No, not racist, but it's actually inclusive because it's written to a standard that no matter socioeconomics, background, anything, if you study the correct way, you could be a bum
Exactly.
living under a bridge and you can still score high enough because
Exactly.
the verbiage, the types of questions, it's literally about things that you can learn.
Yeah.
It's not about anything else that like life experiences.
At all.
None of that matters.
School isn't even about life
That's why I would
experiences.
But
argue
ladies, you
intelligence.
guys are all familiar with the fact that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't want to work hard.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, so
Yes.
I understand where you're coming from. That hey, I beat the odds, etc. But you got to also remember that being a hard worker doesn't necessarily mean that you have IQ, and it goes the other way around. Because there's a lot of people that have high IQ that are lazy as fuck and don't make it in life either.
Right.
So I've always said that there's a lot of people that are book smart that do well in school, but they're still morons. I mean, we brought them on the show plenty of times. Like girls that have high level degrees and they're still idiots. So
PhDs.
I would say education and schooling and being a good student doesn't necessarily mean you are intelligent.
It's just your
Correct.
drive.
We
It's your
should all
drive.
take a. You
Yeah.
should do one time like everyone takes an IQ test and then like comes on.
That'd be funny.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
You just
go
add to your point as well.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, your choice of wanting to learn and become better means who you are today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even though we might have, for example, like issues of, schooling, environment, and, these other external issues, if you're a person that wants to do better for yourself, black, white, Asian, doesn't
not
matter,
happening.
Chinese, once again, it's all on you as an individual to do
Yeah.
better for yourself.
And
Correct.
I would
I agree.
argue that it is nurture far more than it is nature. And I
Okay.
believe that Nick is arguing that it is nature far more than it is nurture.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
and it's part of a bigger point of view, which is that I think that genetics play a much greater role than people would like to believe. I think that so much of our behaviors are genetic. I think that so many of our attributes are genetic. And I think that people have a bias against that because we have this culture, it makes us uncomfortable.
It does.
because genetics are unchangeable and they're immutable.
Mm-hmm.
So people have this idea that, but there's an answer for this. People have this idea that if something's genetic, it's very frustrating because then I can't change it, I can't improve.
That's
And-
not true.
But what it tells us, though, well, like height, like I can't make myself taller,
Right.
you know, and like
Well,
and there's a lot of
these
things.
days you can.
A bald person can't make themselves grow hair, and that's
These days you can.
I think Myron said
Hold on. I use an invasive hair transplant. Genetically, I would have been bald, so he's correct. He's correct.
So the point is that, although the reality might be that genetics matter a lot, I think have a tendency to, it's wishful thinking that it's not so. Here's the thing though. When it comes to these attributes, the answer is like, yes, inequality is real. It should make us uncomfortable. It's a fact. We see it all the time. And so many of the culture war issues are about inequality. Like when you look at the dating stuff or the sex incel stuff, it's about inequality. Gender stuff, it's about inequality. Race stuff, inequality. And the answer to inequality is that people are more than matter. People have souls. People are not just, what their product of their labor is or their house or how tall they are. People are created by God. So the answer to inequality is not to ignore it and not to get offended by it or make it uncomfortable. We have to take those things into account to govern society because we can't solve problems if we don't know the real causes. And so I posed earlier, what's the persistent fact is black and white inequality. What's the answer? Is it racism or circumstance, or is it genetics? People should be open-minded about the genetics because we want to solve it, but we should love people regardless of, whether that inequality is baked in or it's a result of discrimination. So that's just my thesis.
I mean, you package it really nicely.
I got a question.
Okay, and then her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about something else more fun. But
like what? Like what?
but you just had me think. You just had me think about something. Because if it's genetics, right? So why is it when the slaves came over who were kings and queens, their offsprings didn't transform, I guess, or bring those king and queen qualities and attributes?
I don't think they brought kings and queens over. Because what happened is that
not kings and queens. Okay, let me not mud it. Okay, cool.
We was
blacks
kings
sold
and
other
shit.
blacks into slavery. They
No,
were
I know.
captured in wars. So,
but again, you said it was genetic. So there were smart blacks that got brought over here because we wouldn't have half of the shit that we have if we didn't have the smart blacks that came over.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, you look at African immigrants, they do way better than blacks in America.
Yes,
Medical
absolutely.
school.
Because
That's
there's
like
still
really
We're
culture.
not talking about African Americans, so let's not muddy the waters.
We're talking about African immigrants, right?
We're talking about slaves. I'm not talking about African Americans.
I'm talking about, well, here's the point I'm trying to make, though, is that the descendants of African slaves have, you say American blacks have a much lower income and wealth than whites. But you look at African immigrants like Nigerians or others, they have a higher average income than whites. That's because the immigrants are selected. The people that come here from Africa today as immigrants are already pre-selected. In other words, we're not just getting a bunch of people, we're getting people that are going to school on a visa, or they're an engineer on a visa or something like that. And so as a consequence, you know, it would be hard to explain through racism why an African can come here and do super, super well, but blacks are mired in poverty if the answer was racism. But if the answer is genetics, it's like, well, the general population of blacks here is lower IQ than the average IQ of the immigrants that are coming here from Africa as students or workers or something else.
Doesn't that refute your claims then?
No.
Because if in the USA, the black IQ is lower than the average. But if we bring in blacks from the not USA, then their IQ is above average. So doesn't that refute your claim that IQ is how?
Because like I said, it's just an average. So the blacks that are coming over, you know, like when I'm in Chicago, there's a lot of like black Uber drivers, and I talk to them on the way to the airport.
I feel like it's a non sequitur though.
No, but hang on.
There's a lot of Hispanics that are Uber drivers.
Okay, no, but you're
okay.
Let me finish.
Please.
And so a lot of the times, you know, they're students, they're software engineers, they're very intelligent, they're very hardworking, and like I know they're going to make it. I see why average income of a Nigerian is like $80,000 in America. And it's because there's a selection bias. The selection bias is that the Africans that are coming over as immigrants are higher IQ. And so the function is IQ. The blacks that are here that have an average low IQ have a much lower income. The blacks that are already selected as coming over as students, engineers, have a higher IQ. They do very well.
Okay, so have you ever heard of
Obviously, Nick is talking about those that come here legally, okay? Unfortunately, most of them come here illegally. So that's that.
I want to add to what he said real quick before you, because I know you want to switch it. He's correct, because to get an F1 visa, you have to get accepted by some type of university coming to the United States. So that in itself screens out a lot of people that otherwise were morons or wouldn't be able to. Just off of the F1 visa program itself, that screens out a lot of.
So they're groomed to become better.
Because they can't get an F1 visa and come here unless they can get accepted to a school which meets the requirements of university, which already going to beat a lot of Americans out that don't go to college. Sorry,
so I was going to ask you, have you ever heard of generational curse? So you keep talking about genetics. Like, yeah, I inherited some bullshit from my daddy because he lazy and all that type of shit. But that was because he became Americanized. But in Haiti, they know their culture. They know who they are. They're embedded in who they are. So yeah. You're gonna get the Nigerian that is doing the things and all of the things. I don't know how to talk, but I mean, you understand what I'm saying, right? So you're gonna get the Nigerian that do all of the things. But if you have a black American who has been stripped of everything that they knew, they named everything, and they've been given some shit, right? You're gonna get that what you call genetic, whatever you talking about right there. Because because like she just said. You just said that Black Americans are the ones that have lower IQs, but when a Nigerian comes from where they innately are, Nigeria. I'm sorry, y'all trying to, because I'm
know what you mean,
but y'all know what I'm saying. Anyway, but what I'm saying is what I'm saying is generational curses is real. So that's that genetic you talking about. That's that bullshit that I got from my mama and my daddy. That shit that slavery stuff. You get what I'm saying? So yes, that's what you're gonna get. So that's what you're basing it out of, the Black American. But when you talk about your Haitians and you're talking about your Hondurans, because they black too. When you're talking about your Dominicans, you get what I'm saying? When you're talking about people that are based, their culture is rich than the Black American, yes. And that's why they come here and feel some type of way about us, because we don't know who we are, my love. So I get it. But go ahead.
Maybe you should go back.
Like my final point, because I know we're gonna switch topics soon. My final point would be, like, as the person in grad school, like looking at what is the metric of the study that was being conducted? Like, was it done globally? Was it done in the US? Was it done in a specific country? At what time frame was it done? What were the methods? Were there blinding? Were there randomization? Were there controls? What were the controls? Everything. And if I'm saying all these words and no one is understanding what I'm saying, then I really encourage you to try and do some research on how to like interpret research, because it's fun, but it's important to know how to interpret quality research.
A study like that
Not
would never
get a
get done though because
dictionary.
of ethics. Realistically speaking, people
The
are going to get offended
hierarchy.
and triggered, and it would never get funded
The
Especially
because
nowadays.
because here's the other thing too. Like, it's what's the benefit? Like, if you do the study and it comes out negative, and you find out that in fact that people that are black or black Americans have lower IQ, it's going to be terrible. So it's a L all across.
I actually
No one will fund it.
I proposed a study in one of my pathways in school where I wanted to take a look at racial profiling potentially in preschool children.
Mhm.
And my mentor said, well, Clammy, if you are doing this study and you find that Black children do get expelled more or they are racially profiled, then it begs the question, like, okay, are they more misbehaved? Are they targeted more? And that is something, like the point that you bring up is something we have to be very, very careful of.
Yeah, they wouldn't fund it. But now going back to what you were saying about like, were your parents like first generation? Were their parents born in the United States, or were they from?
So yeah, my mom is from South Carolina and my dad is Haitian. So my grandfather went through the Jim Crow era, whereas white fountains, black fountains.
Yeah.
He did not graduate. He did not make it past middle school because he had to help his mother
Okay.
to work. He had to work.
Okay.
So my mom came here. Everybody came here around when she was 6. So yeah, it is that South mentality. Like,
We were speaking Cottons and shit.
it is. I can only give you what I know, what I got,
I mean, I'll
because
be
this
honest,
is what I know
I
and
think
this is
that's
what I got.
I think that's a cop out, because the reality is you're worse off immigrating from a foreign country, not knowing the language, coming over here and trying to make a way, than someone that was born and raised here with all the opportunities. People might say, oh, welfare, I'm a product of government cheese and Section 8, whatever. You're still better off than someone coming from like a Nigeria, a Haiti, whatever.
Yes.
The reality is that it's not necessarily that a lot of Black Americans are unsuccessful because they're Black, is because they're just fucking lazy. Whereas you take an immigrant from Africa, they come over here and they figure out a way to make money, not even knowing the language, not knowing the culture, not knowing anything, and they figure it out.
Fair point.
And I think the reason why is because they don't have the opportunities in their country. They come over here, they actually appreciate it, they thrive in it, and then they make something of themselves, versus someone that was born here, they're entitled to it, they think they deserve it, and then they complain and cry about why they're not where they want to be, and they blame it on the white man, when in reality they're just lazy.
I agree with some of that, but I don't agree with all of that, because we could go back to the system. It systematically
Exactly. That's I was
works.
about to bring that.
It
I was about to bring that up.
systematically
You
works.
cannot-
They
you
drop
cannot
things.
ignore
And,
the
come on, man. Black people have been trying to be. They bombed a whole black market. Come on, y'all. Let's not act like we didn't never ever.
Hold on, let me ask you this then.
Let me.
Like,
Who has more opportunity? Someone coming here from a poor third world country in Africa, or someone that's been systematically impressed in the United States?
Systematically.
Who has more opportunity? Well, obviously the one
okay,
that's
the one
naturally born
that's
in
here.
the-
Yeah, the American dream. Yeah, let's
Okay,
talk about
so
it.
explain to me
I
how
get it.
someone that's born here, raised here, has the language, has a U.S. citizenship, which people die to come here and get all the time.
Mhm.
Explain to me why they're a failure
Mhm.
when someone comes here, doesn't know anything, comes here on a visa, makes their way up,
Mhm.
gets a visa to stay here
Mhm.
from getting a job and being productive.
Not
And then
everybody,
they
because
earn their ability to get a U.S. citizen, and they make it further than the person that was born here that had inherent advantages.
I
though
feel
the
you,
fact
but
that
what
they're-
happened?
Hold on.
Mhm.
Yes, they were systematically oppressed.
Mhm.
Cool, I get
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But third world poverty
Mhm.
is always
Mhm.
going to be way worse than
Absolutely.
American poverty and being oppressed.
Yeah, so I completely agree with Myron and Nick, obviously. This victim mentality is so cringe. Like, why are we pretending time has not changed? Always playing the victims and shit. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think, if you agree. Maybe you agree with the feminist blacks. Leave a like if you want to. Christ is King, and God bless you.